Hey, this is Notser, and we're on the public test server. This is 7.7. I'm testing one of the two operations that changed, Raptor Rescue. The other one that changed is Nari. I believe Nari was the one that you could cheese for a ton of credits and XP. This one is escort a friendly aircraft carrier from one point to the other point. It's not, like game breaking in its design. I just wanted to have it as background while I discuss something else that was introduced in 7.7. And that something else is a crosshair indicator for the minimap. The mod has existed for some time, 3 to 6 months I would guess, and it was using an X marks the spot sort of design, so it had a very precise indicator for the player base, and most of the people who use the mod will say it gives no competitive advantage. And I would tell you that's straight up a lie, because what this allows you to do, it doesn't really revolutionize just my general play in the Bayern. It's not going to change anything. I don't have any tools to take advantage of what the minimap reticle indicator provides. But if I had a scout aircraft, if we were under a cyclone, I would absolutely be able to do something that the general population in 7.6 just can't do. And that is, I can blind fire a location without any visual confirmation that an enemy was or is there. This is really impactful for the Cyclone itself. I know pretty much everyone who watched my content is a veteran of the game. Cyclone, obviously, it reduces the vision that you have on the map, just like everyone else. It's, I think, 6 or 7 kilometers maximum, so you have to be really close to the target to confirm in the 3D space where they are. If a friendly confirms in 3D space where an enemy is located, and you happen to not be in range to have the ship draw on your screen, you can still get a minimap confirmation for their location. And you couple that with this reticle indicator for the minimap, you can blind fire that target in that 3D space just with minimap information. And that is a huge advantage if you're one of those unfortunate souls that had to play 5, 6, 7 Cyclones back to back. It adds up. It allows you to engage targets that you couldn't normally engage. Now, you can confirm in 3D space if a friendly makes contact with the enemy. You can see sort of that splash of the shells. But that's a lot more effort than, oh, friendly has spotted him on the minimap. I see this red outline that indicates that he is not within draw distance, but he is definitely within my gun range because of Cyclone. You can just take a pot shot and see where it lands. And until you get an idea of the speed and the direction of the enemy, well, maybe you'll miss, maybe you'll hit. But eventually, you should hit in a scenario where you absolutely would not have an ability to do that. That is a clear improvement over the base game. And I don't know why Wargaming persists on this idea that there is not a clear advantage on some of these mods. These mods give you clear gameplay advantages that just don't exist. Now, I don't have a problem with it existing in the game. I just have a problem with it existing for such a long time in a mod format and not for everyone else. Now, you could say, oh, well, if they had an issue with the balance of the game, they could go download it. That would be the counter argument for a lot of players who have benefited from the mod, and yet they are frustrated by the complaints levied from some of us who feel like, you shouldn't have an advantage when you install a mod. It should be maybe a visual improvement for you. Maybe you don't like the UI, you think it's ugly. Or maybe you don't like the camouflage, the appearance, or the minimap style, or whatever. But time and time again, the game constantly has mods that directly impact the balance of the game, and they don't really admit that. For whatever reason, they don't want to. Maybe they feel like if they act like it doesn't change the balance of the game, it will minimize its impact. I have no idea how many people actually download this mod, but the Cyclone is a clear advantage. And let's say Cyclone has a 30% chance of popping up during a game. well, 30% of the games, you have an advantage over a player not benefiting from this design. So it's really unfortunate. I really wish that Wargaming would have these mods in a state where they could turn around and plug them right back into the game for the vanilla players if they felt like it was adding something that was missing prior to. And that's what I would interpret this as. Wargaming felt like this reticle indicator for the minimap was a good design and they should introduce it to the base game. That's great. Just introduce it to the base game. Like, within a month of it being introduced to the mod space itself. Why does it take 3 to 6 months to decide that an indicator for your reticle on the minimap is a good thing? I don't understand that. It's very weird to me. So that was my critique of 7.7. It has the other operation. The other operation, you have to escort transport ships to drop off troops. You also have to destroy enemy transport ships. And once you do that, there are waves of enemies that are trying to throw you back into the sea. And these waves are much harder than previous designs for Nari, and you will absolutely see that. And you know what? It's fair. The operations generally are a little bit too easy for my taste. I honestly get a little bored by them. I can't wait for the hard version of the operations. I just feel like it's sort of like in World of Warcraft, you would play a normal dungeon. And that normal dungeon was the easiest experience you could possibly imagine. You had no threat whatsoever that you would die, and the reward was inconsequential. That's how I feel about the normal mode for operations. When are we going to get it to the next step, Wargaming? When are we going to get hard mode? It just, I want to enjoy it. I just can't. It's so easy. It's just so body. I've played with bots for a very long time. I've played a lot of games. I'm sure many of you have as well. And there's just something about bots that are just, they're very predictable. And that doesn't mean that you're not going to fail or do something. It just means that there's not a lot of variety in different strategies that you can take against the enemy. They're just going to basically do what they're supposed to do. And that's kind of boring. Kind of like a lot of the meta is right now. Players are just going to do what they're supposed to do. If they're playing for 20 minutes, they'll play for 20 minutes. They don't really have any sense of urgency to win the game. They just don't want to lose the game. And all it is just a effort and futility for those of us who actually want the game to end. That's the nature of bots for me. They just exist in a space where it's predictable, it's not completely without risk, but it's certainly without a mental risk of thought, if that makes sense. You're just not going to be presented with something that's out of the ordinary. You don't have to actually put real thought into what these bots are going to be doing. You know what they want to do. If you're in range of the guns, they're going to fire the guns. If you're in range of the torpedoes, they're going to send the torpedoes. And they're not really going to change much of how they play. They're not going to feel the urgency to drop off detection, which is a huge difference compared to players. Players have absolutely no interest in staying just visually spotted forever. And that's my complaint with the operations. But it's good that they're addressing these operations. It is a fun way to just play with people in a casual format, and I definitely prefer it over the co-op system, because co-op is just rush forward, kill the targets, and the game's over. This is a little bit more finesse, but it does take more time too, so it's not the ideal solution for some players who they don't want to play 20-minute operations. They want to play something that's a different time sync from that of the main game. And that's cool. Raptor Rescue's fine, no issue there. I do also want to comment, I don't know if you can see it visually in the footage, but when I was playing the public test server, something in the game space visually looked different. Like texture work, the lines look crisper. I don't know what they did in 7.7, and I would like to research it, but something has changed with the way the game draws everything. From a port standpoint to in-game, I don't know what it was, but I thought visually it looked a little bit better, looked a little bit crisper. Now, if you have some information on, oh yeah, they did this to the textures, or they made anti-aliasing work better, please let me know. I'm just curious if I'm crazy, or if, yeah, it does look a little bit more impressive visually. And that's about it for 7.7. It's not super exciting. I think the Kitakaze and the Hitagumo will be released with 7.7. I don't know that for certain. But what I do know is generally Wargaming gives CCs about a month of testing before the ship is actually live. And we received the two ships, the two Japanese alternative DD branch ships in 7.6, and it's going to be about a month before 7.7 comes out, and when it comes out, those should be introduced. I don't really see any issues with them. They are less than ideal, right? You envision an Akizuki at tier 10, and it's just going to be devastating, but when you actually play it, there's a lot more shatter. It does require a super high skill commander, so you're either going to have to move your Akizuki up, or you're going to have to find another high skill commander to really take advantage of it, and that might be disappointing for players. But as far as 7.7, two operations, the reticle indicator on the minimap, and I think a little bit of improvement on the texture work. I hope this was interesting, helpful. If you've got comments on this mod, or, you know, oh, you're talking out of your butt, or, yeah, I never considered that. That is an advantage that you couldn't do normally in the game. Just something to consider. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll catch you next time.